Welcome to That's So Rad podcast. I'm your host, Travis Vonksness. This is a podcast about people, their passions, their life experiences, and their stories. As writer Frederick Buechner once said, the story of any one of us is in some measure the story of us all. All of us can learn something valuable from someone else's life and their stories. Join us for another conversation where we learn, laugh, and leave, seeing our own life in new ways. What's more rad than that? All right, welcome to That's So Rad podcast. I'm your host, Travis, and I am joined by a friend today who I've not talked to in several years, have not seen or talked to. Have our families thought about her, and she's meant a lot to us personally in some ways we're going to talk about in this podcast, and we have an interesting story of how we met. But so we'll get into all of that good stuff. She's wearing her Tennessee Vols gear. She's in East Tennessee. Rhonda Douglas, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm very pleased to be here.
Well, great to have you. So those that don't know who you are, just anything you want to say as an overview of who you are, your family, what you're up to.
Okay. I'm married. Together we have 4 kids, and they are all grown now. So my husband and I are empty nesters. We have 3 cats, and we have a golden retriever. So we have lots of fur babies around their house.
Yeah, I was going to say the empty nest of humans has emptied out, but
Yes.
maybe the...
But we have furry children.
Furry children
Yes.
are keeping it full still.
That's right. So I'm in Sevierville, Tennessee, and I'm a former special ed teacher. And now I am the children's director at my church.
Very cool.
So, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Love it. And Sevierville's Dolly Parton's hometown, right?
It is.
So
yes.
There we go.
Yes.
And yeah, we'll talk more about Sevierville and East Tennessee. I love the name Sevierville.
Yes.
Just and that's mispronounced all the time too. I think.
It is. Mm-hmm.
So let's just get right into, thanks for that intro of who you are and a little bit about yourself. Let's get right into how we met, which is pretty a wild story. Okay. So you just take the lead on this story.
Okay. I'm thinking back to 2017. Mm-hmm. I was asked to participate in a training for SRO officers. And a colleague and I were doing a special ed kind of overview for these officers. And we were kind of taking the disability and kind of telling the officers, this is a little bit about it, and this is what you might see. And the one that I knew the least about was traumatic brain injury. So I started researching traumatic brain injury, and the definition of it by the state is one thing, but to actually see how it impacts someone on a daily basis is a whole different thing. So I was looking at YouTube videos, and I had typed in traumatic brain injury, and was watching different individuals as they were going through therapies and things for traumatic brain injury. And that's when I came across Jeremy's story. Mm. And for some reason, Jeremy's story just impacted my heart. And I started praying for Jeremy and for your family just by watching these videos. And just really felt that connection to his story. And so I was just praying about, okay, God, what do you want me to do here? Because obviously, you're putting it on my heart to pray for Jeremy and to pray for his family. And where do I go from there? And I just felt like God was asking me to reach out. And um, when God asks you something, you don't want to say no. And you're thinking, okay, God, but they're going to think I'm a little goofy here. Here's this stranger from Tennessee who is
Mm-hmm.
reaching out, going, I've watched your story, and it's really impacted me, and I would like to connect with you and your family. And I thought, they're going to think I'm a nut.
Well, you'd fit right in then, is what we probably felt.
So, I continued to pray and continued to feel like God was asking me to reach out. So, being prompted, I did. And um, Stephanie was the first one that I contacted. And I'm not sure, I might have found Stephanie on Facebook. That might have been how I found her.
No, you wouldn't.
No.
She's still not on Facebook. So she's the
Okay.
most elusive of our family members. Yeah,
Okay.
she has been in hiding socially for decades.
Okay. I'm not sure how I found her then. Um, but
I
I found Stephanie
somehow.
first
Okay.
and called her and told her who I was and told her um, how I had just been praying and felt like I was supposed to reach out. And from there, we scheduled a visit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we got started coming down and visiting.
Okay. Yep. That's a great summation of that whole thing. So we're going to backtrack a second and respond
Okay.
to a few things, and we're going to keep this going because
All right.
this is, yeah, you set it up. So, um, and I have to do this really on every podcast where we talk about Jeremy, because if you're just jumping into this episode and know nothing of the backstory, just by way of context, Jeremy's my brother who suffered a TBI, traumatic brain injury, in 2009 in a rollover car wreck in Montana. Was originally pronounced dead at the scene. Then the prognosis was vegetative, and that would be the best he could be. And a year later, he comes out of a coma, still basically unresponsive. There was no meaningful interaction or that he was there. And then it was like miraculously, God just slowly started unlocking him and showing he's totally here. And he starts spelling. He can't talk, still can't, but he could spell. We picked him that he would be able to spell by moving his leg according to the alphabet. And then that was Steph, my sister, that you already said, that figured that out. And so to this day, Jeremy, this many years later, is still, tube fed and wheelchair and 24/7 care, and has incredible joy, and is an amazing, amazing story. And what then? And so what? Here's what I was laughing though, is I'm thinking of you kind of sheepishly reaching out to this family, going, "What will they think?" I'm thinking, you couldn't have picked a better one. So I met my wife online. So I have exchanged wedding vows with a woman I met online. So, and then even in the accident, I remember the way, like in Bozeman, Montana. So the boys, so my other brother, well, three of them were in a wreck, and Jeremy was sent to Billings, Montana. The others were in Bozeman, way across the state, big state. And you're just scrambling. Like, imagine the family. Like, what do we do? How do we even triage this? Get out there, and you're just in shock. And my parents went out there, and we all start to kind of get out there, and it so happened that um, out in Bozeman, somehow, as that all made the news, someone opened up their home to our family and just happened to live in their hometown in South Carolina, or was from where my folks lived. And so I think the whole accident is just filled with examples of like God connecting people through
Mhm.
just the craziest of ways. So
Mhm.
I think you coming in through YouTube was like, oh my gosh, that it was almost like, for us, instead of being like, oh, that's weird, it was like, oh my gosh, another crazy like miracle of sort of a deal. So yeah, so you come down. I mean, what was it like? So Sevierville to Spartanburg.
Uh-huh.
Now 40 has been a mess from Helene and stuff, but do you remember back then, like how long that
Yeah.
trip took?
I think about 3 hours.
each way.
Uh-huh.
Yep. So we're talking. So do you remember the drive going for the first time? Just going like,
Yeah.
what are we doing?
But yes, yes. But feeling very, very peaceful
Okay.
that this was what God had asked me to do,
Okay.
to reach out and to connect with your family. And I just felt like I knew that was what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So from there, you sort of felt like at peace and calm that, this is what I'm doing, supposed to be doing. This is the mission. So what do you remember then, like maybe even that initial trip or whatever, of just like, what was it like then to meet Jeremy after the video and then you embarking on this trip down? Like,
It was wonderful, to meet Jeremy and to get to talk to him and to just encourage him. And he encouraged us so much.
hmm,
And just getting to meet all of your family,
yeah,
it was just such a blessing.
yeah, that's awesome. So now you guys would have, so you would come, was it almost every time with your daughter or did you come maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, yep, you had a companion for the ride
Yeah.
and yeah, it was fun having her too. Um, and you and I were kind of reminiscing a little bit about this. Like, so this was 2017 and would you have come, how often do you remember? What,
Um, every couple of months,
every couple
probably.
months? Yeah. Okay. Every
Yeah.
couple of months on like a Sunday, right? Or a Saturday.
Uh huh.
Um, and probably staying, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't all day, but several hours,
Yeah. Uh huh.
but again, that's a 6 hour round trip,
Yeah.
you know. And so I think apart from kind of the the way in which we met through, like you said, that video that you found him, I just, every time you'd come and you and I talked about this lasted for what, into maybe up to 2019. So
Yeah. Uh
every
huh.
few months for at least 2 years,
Uh huh.
um, sort of you guys just faithfully coming and hanging out. Man, I mean, as much as you were inspired by Jeremy and being around him, I mean, I know I was just inspired by you
Thank
guys.
you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
just the kind of devotion is the word I'd say. The
Hmm.
devotion to doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was also a seminary student at that
Okay.
time,
Okay.
working full time teaching,
Jeez.
um, special ed, and then I was a seminary student.
Wow. So to have one more thing in your plate to to be adding to on a weekend, man.
Yeah.
So as you kind of just like look back at that time, what if there were any certain memories or certain just general takeaways of even just like that rhythm or what that meant to you to or what you learned from that?
I okay. I think probably my biggest takeaway is when God speaks to your heart, when He lays something on your heart, be obedient to it. It may seem strange.
Hmm.
You might not understand it at the time, but I fully believe that, as crazy as it seems, we are to be obedient. I think that has been my biggest takeaway.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and yeah, the whole time that I was in seminary was a very special time,
Hmm.
a time that it stretched my faith, um, but I was able to see God working in so many
Hmm.
ways. Um, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And I wonder too, like, I know sometimes I've got brothers in seminary, but that seminary can also be so academic, so rigorous, so like
Mm-hmm.
intellectual.
Mm-hmm.
So to also be experiencing these like huge heart things or these life
Mm-hmm.
things of suffering or whatever while in there,
Hmm.
that must have made a big difference too, to be able to like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
keep
And
keep.
during that time, we came down for Jeremy's birthday one time,
Hmm.
and I had been praying about his birthday, and God really laid it on my heart to write a book for him. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I and
Yeah,
now that you say that,
yeah. And my daughter illustrated the book, and I wrote it, and have never written a book before, never written a book since, but felt like God was leading me to do that at that time. And so we made that book and gave it to him for his birthday.
oh my gosh, I forgot about that because that is wow. That's like what 7, 8 years ago or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe 2018.
okay, okay. We got to get that out
Yeah,
again. I mean, there's been so many things he's been given or whatever, and then we have like this storage thing of all that stuff. But yes, so a sort of divinely inspired spark of an idea for a book, and that
yes.
you were a one and done at this point in your author.
Well, I'm open that,
Okay.
if God says he wants me to do, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've come to that
Yeah.
point that, as crazy as it seems, okay, if
And
God asks you to do something.
when you got that vision to write that, like you're not like what you would consider a children's book writer, a book writer, like an author. And it was
No,
sort of like just okay, next mission here, huh?
right.
Wow. Um, yeah, I'm glad you said that. We got to dig that thing up and pull that out. Anything in which cause your daughter Emily at the time would join you and come down and was part of that whole thing. Like, any thoughts around like what some of that meant to her? Like, even looking back at her life now, she's
Um, I, I think for me, it was showing her um, missions,
mm-hmm.
and showing her how how to reach out to
Mm-hmm.
others.
Yeah.
And I think that was her takeaway, that okay, Mom, this might be absolutely
Mm-hmm.
nuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it might be, but if that's what God's telling you to do, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's it. That's yeah. And the thing is, I was talking in the previous podcast, I think, to Eron, who Jeremy lives with their family, and how like he had said to me, and I thought it was profound, of like his kids are teenagers, and kind of the question around like what influences Jeremy had on their life, and I loved his answer was like, I don't know yet.
Hmm.
I don't know yet. Obviously you see some ways in which it has, but I think that's a great answer of like, you'll never know, like even down the road, like
Right.
what I guess your, I would say courage, but also compassion to reach out to someone like miles away you have no connection with. And then like, as I use the word like to, devotion was the word that came to mind, but just faithfully visit and be a presence.
Hmm.
I mean, that's inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, um, it's against the grain, I would say. I
Yeah.
want to, there's, and to me, that would be another thing that I would think, my kids, if that was me, would take away of just like, um, it's not, what's the word? Like, we live in an age of just, and I am too, like just, ease and comfort and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
hopping in a car for, and obviously you had a great time when you were there, but like to give up 6 hours of a day on a
Yeah.
weekend to go
Yeah.
see someone that like that, um, that's awesome. So I was going to ask you, do you have any memories of my dad?
I do.
What comes to mind?
I, I remember his kindness.
Hmm.
Every time that we came down, he was very welcoming, and his kindness was just every time. I remember that he was very attentive to Jeremy, but he also went out of his way to make us feel like we were welcome to be there.
That's awesome. Hey, that sounds right. Yep.
Yeah,
The big
yeah,
smile and
yep,
open the door and come on in and be here
yep.
with us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's we miss that guy.
Yes,
But he gave his life to caring for Jeremy, and as we've said before, I'm sure it in some way shortcutted Dad's life, but he would
hmm,
never have traded it.
right.
And Jeremy's health and uh, just how he'll be 38. I mean, this is, gosh, 17. What are we approaching? 16 years from the accident to
Yeah.
be in the care. Like when Jeremy does go to the hospital, one of the things we often hear from all the doctors and nurses is just how amazing the condition his body is in,
Hmm.
given the condition it's in, like given
Right.
the state. So,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
That's incredible.
Hmm. So yeah, this was cool. Anything else you want to say or that comes to mind about that chapter of visiting Jeremy?
Um, I really hope that God gives me that opportunity to come back down
Hmm.
and to visit you guys again.
Yeah,
Um, that would just, it would be incredible
yeah.
to be able to come back and do that.
Well, the door is always open.
Thank you.
So, yep. Yeah, reconnecting this podcast is cool. So, but yeah, definitely doors always open. So you just, whenever that works out for you.
Thank you.
Yep. Well, let's kind of move on and we're going to go into a little bit more of your life, your story. And I want to start with just what are some, as you kind of look back at your life, what are some of the formative things that have shaped you in your life? So you talked about you went on to become a special ed teacher, that whole thing. But yeah, what kind of shaped you, child and youth?
Um, Two things that really came to my mind was faith and family. I grew up in church my entire life, and that was a big part of who I was, even as a child.
Hmm.
And so I made my commitment to Jesus when I was a child. But then as I grew to be an adult, seeking that deeper relationship with Him. Um, and then eventually going to seminary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that foundation was rooted in my earliest memories of going to church and
Mm-hmm.
my grandmother reading her Bible to me, and her teaching me how to pray, and those very, very special memories of, how she lived her life,
Yeah.
and she lived it so all could see that she was a follower of Jesus.
Yeah. That's awesome. We were just having a conversation about that, in a church small group we're in, of just like, yeah, what is the impact of, say older family members
Mm-hmm.
that a whether it was their faith or imparted wisdom or just modeled things that really that were huge for us to kind of learn and grow from. And
Mm-hmm.
um yeah,
Yeah.
sounds like your grandma was one of those people.
Yes. And yeah, I grew up a little bit north of here.
Hmm.
Um, I grew up in West Virginia.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't come to Tennessee until I was a college student.
Okay.
But I grew up in a community that I was surrounded by family.
Yeah.
I was related to half the town. So,
Yeah.
it was that little pocket, and we went to church on Sundays, and we gathered at grandma's house for Sunday lunch. And I had my aunt and my first cousin there, and then sometimes other family members would come for lunch on Sundays. And so it was that Sunday was a family day, as well as a church day. And that taking that time to be with family.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of families don't do that now, but
Right.
that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
And so you did have that influence of older family members.
Mm-hmm.
You had that connection.
Yeah. Yeah. And and your experience of that was generally always pretty positive in terms of like the connection and the
Mhm.
people. Yeah.
Yes.
Um, I can see people that if the family was,
Yeah.
then yeah, all the gatherings and being with the crazy uncles wasn't exactly fun.
Right.
But yeah, that's a good point though. That yeah, there it feels like, and this isn't true of everybody, but it does feel like there's been a loss of, and maybe some of it's the speed in which we live, and kind of just the pace or whatever. But yeah, just that ability to slow down and just take a day like that, or just to kind of be together.
Hmm.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, the closest I get to that now, and I had that experience, kind of, not saying I was in your shoes, but a lot of that resonates with my experience growing up in North Dakota
Hmm.
of, just, yeah, a lot of downtime with family,
Hmm.
um, hanging out for a good chunk of a week, part of a weekend or whatever, or camping together, and,
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff. The closest I think I can get to that now is, and this isn't often, but when my siblings, are six of us, and I feel like everyone, Jeremy, he doesn't have kids, but everybody else has got, like, I feel like at least five kids plus. I mean, we literally, when we get together, it's a huge gathering.
Yeah.
And so, and, although there's probably a shelf life for how many little kids there are, how long your capacity is on those days. But it is fun. But yeah, family's a huge thing. So
Yeah.
very cool. So you didn't get to Tennessee then until college,
Right.
and
I
then
came, I
okay,
came as a college student. Now, when I was growing up, I um, would come down every summer
okay,
to the Sevierville Pigeon Forge area,
mm-hmm,
and we would spend maybe 3 or 4 days in this area. So I knew the area pretty well before I moved here
gotcha.
from
Oh,
coming during the summers.
okay.
But I actually came as a college student to UT.
Oh, really? Okay.
Uh huh.
So alumni, you graduate from there too, and
I did,
man,
yes.
that's it. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of pride there in East Tennessee with, I mean, every that
Yes.
pastel orange on a Saturday. I mean, so we and that's kind of the cool thing about our story in connection with you, that, has kind of come full circle in a way for my wife and I, is that little did we know that here now in 2025 we would own land in East Tennessee, just down the road from you in Newport,
Mm-hmm.
and so I get to see a lot of that Vols orange, and and
Yep.
then our oldest goes to Carson Newman and near you in Sevierville. So,
Yes.
and the world's largest Bucky's is
Yes.
what
Is
is
in
that?
Sevierville.
Was that 10 minutes from you, or how close? I mean,
Uh, it might be 10 minutes.
geez, that would be a dangerous. If I was that close to that place, 10 minutes away would be dangerous for me for a lot of. So there's a. I'm curious about this. Okay, so West Virginia, you would have come from the mountains, or was it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
yeah. You're a mountain girl.
Yes.
So there's a great line by the Spanish philosopher. I can't say his name well, Jose, or I'm not even going to do it, but and he says, "Tell me the landscape in which you live, and I'll tell you who you are." Love that quote around how being shaped or kind of formed in some way by our landscapes. I come from, the Dakotas, so the big sky, the windy prairie, and kind of
Mm-hmm.
just some of that. There's a ruggedness, I think, that shapes in you. The extreme winters, things like that. Just kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to live up there,
Right.
you're just trying not to get blown away.
Right.
It's no trees. For you, as so West Virginia and then Tennessee. What is it about, even the mountainous landscape, or living in a place that you just see those big mountains? I mean, what do you feel like that impact has had on you?
It is an incredible beauty
Hmm.
of God's painting a
Mm-hmm.
masterpiece.
Hmm.
And we have all four seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to see the leaves starting to bud in late winter, and the flowers start to come up and everything turn green. You get to see the leaves in green during the summer and the um, hot temperatures. You
Mm-hmm.
get to see the in the fall the leaves change. You get to see snow in the winter.
Yeah.
You know that all four seasons just it shows the beauty of God's creation
Mm-hmm.
in every season,
Yeah.
and the animals, um, the trees, the flowers, everything just shows the beauty of God's creation here.
Yeah. No, that's a good word. And yeah, God is an artist, and like the creativity behind all of the stuff that um I've read a lot on like kind of the creativity and beauty, and I'm always fascinated by that stuff, and the idea that like God didn't have to create a world like that,
Hmm.
and what does that say about his value for like beauty and creativity and things that um are the gratuitous gift of beauty. Um it, is there something too about like, so having not come from the mountains but
Hmm.
now feeling at home there, I have come to there's something for me of like driving around Newport and kind of being on our land and just like always looking over at the mountains and just kind of like, I don't know, like like to your point, even about seasons, like I've noticed like how the mountains, like whether even the colors of the trees change the form, the hues on the mountains, but even the way the clouds shift the sun, and how
Hmm.
it's like the mountains kind of are kind of always moving in a way, like
Right?
in terms of their color and things like that.
Hmm.
That's super cool.
Yeah, that
and
is.
and there's something just like, I guess for me, like anchoring, like just looking at that anchoring
Hmm.
thing out there that just, I don't know, I can just sit out there and
Hmm.
in this world of so much our frenetic pace and so much anxiety there's something just anchoring about just looking out at these like
Hmm.
strong mountains just sitting there. It's like,
Hmm.
yeah,
And knowing they have been here
yeah,
for such a long time.
exactly, yeah, for
We're
sure,
not going to be here nearly as long as the
right,
mountains.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but I find it very peaceful.
yep,
I find it very inspiring.
yeah,
I like to sit outside and talk to God, and just being surrounded by that nature.
yeah, yeah, 100% with you there. um yeah, that's a great word, inspiring. I think that's the thing, is I leave East Tennessee coming back home, and the upstate of South Carolina is beautiful, but in a different way. But I think it is always like it's feeling like coming down the mountain, but
Hmm.
coming away from that inspiration, that backdrop and that landscape, and kind of bringing that inspiration home,
Hmm.
kind of channeling, that experience. So that's the work of getting back to the real life, coming back home for us. But
Right. Yeah.
um,
Now,
yeah.
Newport, you have had to hear stories about Popcorn Sutton.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, and yeah. Newport's a wild place. I feel like it's like the modern Dukes of Hazzard, or it has been almost the real life town of Dukes of Hazzard. It is
So that little community is really similar to what I grew up
okay.
in. That little
Okay.
community.
So
Yeah.
like Moonshine Central back in the, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I remember when we were looking at land in Newport, having no clue about anything, right? and just like the more I Wikipedia or whatever each next news story, I was almost like, as much as I love this, I mean, we're talking like federal corruption of I think the FBI had to get brought in for the local law enforcement. I mean, it was,
Yes.
yeah. So Popcorn Sutton and these
Mm-hmm.
these wild figures of the.
Now we have a lot of distilleries
Mm-hmm,
that are set up in Sevier County.
mm-hmm.
Um, but Popcorn Sutton was a moonshiner that he had his own distillery for a
Yeah,
very long time.
right. Yeah. No, it is funny. Yeah, that's and then there's the show. I don't is that still on in, because one of them is the Newport location is one of the Moonshiners shows.
I think so. Yeah.
Yep, yep. we had a we had a real estate agent when we were first out there looking at different stuff, and he had some stories, man. He was telling us, yeah, there'd be places like you'd show up even to like show property, and you'd kind of go down a driveway and go, no, we're not, we got to turn around. This isn't
I
gonna end well if we.
I I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but it's a cool place. They're really revitalizing things too, and we've met some of the nicest people
Oh,
in
that's great.
Newport. So yeah, it's so. Well, as we kind of like get into this home stretch of kind of a little bit more about just your life, you went on to become a special ed teacher
Hmm.
earlier in your life. Kind of what led into that, and kind of just what were some of your experiences in that space?
Um, I had some cousins who had disabilities,
Okay.
and I think that really influenced me and impacted my life. That at first, when I was growing up, I thought I'm going to be a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the path that I wanted. I wanted to be a nurse. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I thought. And then as I grew older, and um, I thought, I really enjoy teaching. I really enjoy being around kids. And that was something that God gifted me with,
Mm-hmm.
that I went the path of a special ed teacher.
Cool.
And it with it being special ed, there's definitely a part of it that is taking care of
Mm-hmm.
these kids.
Sure.
It is more involved than a regular ed teacher.
Yeah.
You definitely are taking care of them,
Sure.
sort of similar to what a nurse would do,
Mm-hmm.
taking
Yeah.
care of people.
Yep.
So I see that, God influencing my life in that way of,
Hmm.
yeah, I was taking care of
Mm-hmm.
people, and
Yeah.
that was his design. That's what
Yeah.
he led me to do.
Yeah. So, and how long did you do that in that
Um,
role?
I was a full-time teacher 16 years.
Okay.
I did some substitute teaching and things like that, but I was full-time 16 years.
Wow.
Hmm.
And so I had a experience just for summer. Um, this was, I'm gonna say like in 2000 and I'm just gonna throw this at 2003. I mean, this is quite a ways back. Let's say 05, something like that. Where I was at kind of in a kind of a transient time in my life. I was trying to figure where, this was post college, but also just trying to like, I was at a crossroads of like, what am I doing with life? And I was at a summer camp in South Dakota, um, as a camp counselor for kids with disabilities.
Hmm.
So so then it's interesting because then fast forward later in my life with Jeremy having a brother then with a traumatic brain injury, would never have known, in some ways, even the preparatory
Hmm.
aspect of that I was for a summer working with kids, like I said, at that camp, that of all kinds of different things. There were traumatic brain injuries, there was, just birth, kind of defect type things that led to,
Hmm.
but, and this well, but it is probably when I look back at it, some of the most inspiring people I've ever been around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we talk about like serving them and like to your point, caring for them as like a nurse in some ways. But I think I was struck by how much they served me in their way. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Um, can you talk a little bit about that? Your experience of like how you were impacted or inspired by.
I really loved my kids. They were part of my family
Mm-hmm.
and still part of my family. Um, so I can look back when we would have. I spent years as a special ed preschool teacher,
Mm.
and when it was the end of the year, when we had our end of the year program, I could never get up and talk to parents because I cried.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it was a very bittersweet time because they were being promoted, and that was a good thing, and I was very happy for them. And um, but it was also very sad because I was attached to the kids, and I would just break down and cry. And my principal
Hmm.
said she learned not to ask me to talk because I was a crier,
Yeah.
um, and that's okay.
You're right.
But I would get attached to the kids, and I really would miss them. They would move on to their next teacher, and yeah,
What was, so definitely the attachment is what was the emotion, but what do you think underneath some of that emotion was? Was it seeing how much they overcame, their courage, their
I think
um
that progress, because some of
okay.
the kids that I had, I would have 2 years, some even 3 years
Mm-hmm.
in preschool.
Okay.
And um, there was one child that I had for 3 years in preschool. And then when I moved to the intermediate school, I had him 2 years in intermediate school. So I had him for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that was
Yeah.
definitely a traumatic, when
Yeah.
he moved on. I was very happy for him,
Yeah.
but it was also that attachment
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, I've
He was
had
one
this,
of your kids, really, in
yeah,
a way. Yeah.
yeah, for 5 years. That's
That's
a
a long
long
time.
time.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his mom even said, I don't know how this transition's going to go because he's pretty attached. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, for 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that
Yeah.
that was, but just to see their growth
Right. Yeah.
and see who they were when they came in,
Mm.
but when they left, definitely, they definitely grew during
Yeah.
that time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh man. I think
yeah,
yeah, I'm tracking with you, and I think
yeah,
there's so much they teach us about our own lives, about
yes,
life, about
yes.
seeing things with
Mm-hmm.
curiosity, and there's that innocence that I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's just um
Mm-hmm.
you know
Yeah,
yeah, really.
having that background in special ed, um, the year that I got pregnant with my son, um, the that year leading up to it, I had been sent to all of these trainings
Mm-hmm.
about autism.
Yep.
And I thought, okay, I don't ever want to hear that word again. I have been to so many
Mm-hmm.
trainings. Um, and when my son was born, he was born crying all day, every day. So clearly from birth, there
Mm.
was something going on with him.
Yeah.
Um, could not put a name to it that early in life, but knowing something's not quite right. And it wasn't at night. he wasn't a colicky baby. He slept great at night. It was all day
Yeah.
when all of the sensory
Yep.
information was coming in.
Yeah.
And later, I could look back and go, okay, God, you didn't send me to those trainings for my job. You sent me for that baby that you were going to give me.
Wow.
And to be his advocate and really push for him. He started therapy at 13 months old, which, almost 24 years ago, that was extremely
Right.
early.
Right. Yeah.
And it was because I pushed and said, I want a referral. And the pediatrician did not want to give me one. And I said, no, I really,
Yeah.
the earlier that we could get him into therapy, the better.
Yep.
And I really wanted him to start. So at 13 months, he qualified for everything. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I had those developmental concerns, and I could tell you this is not typical
Right.
development.
Right.
This is not.
Yeah.
Not any area was normal.
Yeah.
So he got into therapy, and today he's a college student.
It's awesome.
He has his own apartment, pays his bills.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's huge.
It's huge.
That
Huge. But
he's
he,
doing that.
yeah. And that's a great point around this whole conversation around being an advocate too, because if there was any space that you really do have to step up and advocate, I've seen it is in that sort of disability space, especially because, yeah, I mean, like in, Jeremy, my brother's case, obviously he can't even speak, but there's so many things I think are overlooked or assumed. And there's a lot of doctors. I mean, I think there's a lot of bad doctors, but there's a lot of good doctors too that just, they don't have the time on the visit, or they're just kind of going with their gut instinct on things or whatever. And they just don't have all the information
Right.
that you have as the mom or the dad
Right.
or with a brother, And so you really do have to advocate.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And like, as you said, doing so and then getting him the services that he needed. And then look at him today of like flourishing and independent and doing all that stuff. I mean, so yeah. So you've lived it personally in your own house. I mean, yeah,
Yes.
much more
Yep.
than just, being sort of a vocational
Right.
person in that role. So
Yes.
very cool. Well, currently you already talked about this at the beginning, but you're a children's director at your church. Sounds like
Yes.
you're loving it.
Yes.
What's behind the love of that, and how is it impacting you out there?
I think I think I have the best job ever because I get to teach kids about Jesus. And for me, there's nothing better than that. Every week you get to share the love of Jesus with these kids. And it is never boring.
I
Just
bet not.
no, never boring. You never know when you walk in, what they're going to say or what they're going to
Right.
do, or yeah, it is, but it is just the best job. And coming from a background in education and loving kids, and being able to do that in the church, being able to love on these kids and love on their parents, and it is just a great fit.
Yeah, I was gonna say it seems like it's tailor made for who you are and stuff. I mean, what does it sort of entail then in terms of like as you talk about teaching them about Jesus and stuff?
It is everything from recruiting volunteers to teaching to planning Christmas programs and buying stuff for that to planning VBS
Oh
and
man, yeah. So
you,
that's a lot, and a lot of creativity, right? I mean, a lot of like creative stuff you gotta.
yeah, it's working on, it's, you really have a project going all the time.
Yeah.
whether it's planning Christmas or if it's planning Easter or VBS, you've got a project going all the time.
Man. Yeah. Keeps you on your toes. And
Yes.
have you noticed, and maybe it's a little bit of a different demographic than your previous teaching job, but have you noticed a big difference in kids' like attention span and just like some of that stuff that's maybe changed through the years or
It definitely has changed
yeah.
through the years. There's definitely kids like technology.
Yeah.
They like those things, and it. My previous career kind of spills over. I have several kids who have an IEP,
Mm-hmm.
um, who are in our children's program, um, and that I've not had to make huge adjustments for them, but keeping that in mind
Mm-hmm.
of, okay, maybe I do need an extra hand here,
Yeah.
or I might need something specific in that room. But it kids are different today than they were 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that it really is. And it shows that um, kids really, they're into that technology. They like mom and dad's phone. They,
Mm-hmm.
they,
Mom and dad like their phones a little bit too much too.
yeah, that's true. Yep.
But yeah, and I'm sure you're seeing it too from just super young ages, kids having phones. You're like, really? I mean, you have,
Hmm.
uh,
Yep. Yep. And trying to unplug that
yeah,
a little bit
yeah,
um, and to teach those Bible skills with an actual Bible
right,
instead of
right,
an electronic one.
yeah,
I've encouraged them to bring their Bible to church, or if they
sure,
don't have one, getting them a physical copy of it,
yeah,
because that's how you learn about the Bible, is you have that
mm-hmm,
physical copy of the Bible, and you really interact
mm-hmm,
with it.
yeah, yeah. I think, and I like that idea of just around so many things too, of just like sensory. You're touching it, you're holding it, it's tangible. Yeah,
Hmm.
everything now feels like it's on a phone, it's an app, and it's just like there's something different to like real things.
Hmm.
And I think we kind of all long for that more, to get back to that, I think.
Yeah.
So very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to end with this question. This is kind of my ending question for most guests on this podcast, because it's something I think is important to look at for ourselves. And inspiration begets inspiration, and we can learn a lot from each other. So, but where in your life are you finding inspiration? What's the spark that kind of keeps you going?
Um, I think for me, a lot of inspiration comes from those kids that I
Hmm.
teach.
Yeah.
Um, whether it's a parent telling me that her child was singing Jesus Loves Me on the way to church, or a parent telling me, do you know that she knows all these books in the Old Testament? Yeah. um, that gives me inspiration. That gives me that spark,
Hmm.
I guess, to keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That, to see these kids and the impact that they're getting from coming to church,
Mm-hmm.
and being influenced by what we're doing
Mm-hmm.
at church is just incredible. And then we've had several who have made professions of faith and be baptized, and that's just the
Yeah.
best. That
Yeah.
is the absolute best, when one
Yeah.
of your kids
Mm-hmm.
makes that confession and is baptized. That is the best.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why you're there, right?
Yep.
That's how it all matters right there.
Yep.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for, just sharing and being on this podcast. Cool to catch up with you some on this and what
Yes.
you're up to. It's been cool to see where your life has gone since we've sort of, in some ways, parted ways of our, visits with Jeremy.
Yes.
But like I said, door is always open, and I'm sure we will
Thank
see you sometime. And
Yes.
we've been meaning to, and we will, now that we're up in East Tennessee regularly, we'll find you at Buc-ee's, or we'll
Yes, that
now
would be great.
that's probably the last place you ever want to meet up at some, but at least we'll get you at Shiny Eyes, or we'll find some place to hook up, but that'd be fun.
Sounds great.
All
Yes.
right. Well, thanks for being on today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hope you enjoyed the episode today. Check out the show notes for any links or resources shared in the episode. If you enjoy the podcast, it would be really appreciated if you'd subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and share it with friends. May we all remember these words from writer Mary Oliver. Instructions for living a life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it.